did you go back to Taiwan for the first time?
Oh, the first time was, that's a pretty in-depth story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
The reason why I came back to Taiwan was because in 2007, I believe, there was a shooting at my school. It was the Virginia Tech shooting. The perpetrator was someone who was of Korean
Oh, I
descent.
remember reading about that. You were
That was
at
my
the
school, right?
Oh, wow.
The first victim was actually a friend of mine.
No
He was a
way.
resident advisor for one of the buildings there, and he was the first person to approach him. And so, yeah, like
Were you on campus?
I was on campus, yeah. So my friend was actually asked me to hang out the weekend before the shooting. And then I remember it was
That's
on a
rough.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so I found out from another friend that he was the first person who was shot before the news had announced it. So
Damn.
that was a very, very difficult time for me. I took an exam in the building where the shootings happened, like right next to it, and then I left the building after my exam, which I probably did really bad in, which is my case in every exam. But I left and I went back to my dorm, and then I heard the sirens, and then that's when I found out from emails and people talking and then the news that, like, I remember when they first mentioned that at that time they said 20 some students are confirmed to be dead. I just remember I just collapsed. Because that was hard. Because like when you find out people who are in the same,
Understatement. Damn.
yeah, when you
even
find out that
imagine.
people who are in the same space, who are like you and at that age, when you're still supposed to have so many like dreams and like your whole life is supposedly still in front of you, and then instantly like 30 some lives were taken. That was a rude awakening for me. Like I really was. I mean, I always had the itch to be like entertainment. I've always wanted to be an entertainer, but I just in Virginia, like there's no stages there. It's like literally like
Yeah. What was the path to that?
Yeah.
Either move to.
I just didn't think I just didn't think it was possible. So I just I was always just singing in the shower, or I would go in the garage and I would pretend like I was on stage of like one of the competitions I used to really like in Taiwan. That was as far as my dreams would
And
go.
what was your major?
I was a biology major. I was going to be a dentist. Yeah. So the shooting happened, and then the same year I had a tumor that was on my parotid gland, and luckily like it wasn't cancerous, but I still had to get surgery for it. And then the doctor was like I guess just really honest, but he was like, "Oh, this is a really, really bad surgery." He's like, "If I mess up just a little bit, your face will lose sensation for the rest of your life." And I was like, "Thank you, doctor, for your vote of confidence." And then the power went out in the middle of my surgery, like in the hospital, because there was a storm, and then it shot out the power. And so like that could have been very dangerous for my situation. The little funny side story of that is like the nurse was actually like my mom has a Chinese restaurant, and then she has a lot of very loyal customers, and it just so happened the nurse of my surgery was a customer of my mom, and she saw the last name Rong, which is very uncommon. So she was like, "Oh, is this Alice's son?" So she came to the lobby and she saw my mom. She's like, "Well, take care of your son. Don't worry, everything will be fine." So then when the power went out, like my mom and my brother are in the lobby like freaking out, and then like the nurse comes out and she's like, "Everything's fine. Don't worry. Everything's fine. Everything's fine." And she started crying, right? Like the nurse started crying. So like, what is that? There's like, so they literally thought I was gonna die, but luckily I got out of that surgery unscathed. I'm still alive, obviously.
Your beautiful face.
Yeah, beautiful face.
Works.
My face still works. I still feel it. So then after all that happened, the shooting and the surgery. Oh, and I had a car accident right before the surgery. I forgot to mention that. So like I woke up and I was like, I'm still alive. I was like, I think whatever's above is like trying to tell me like I need to like really like not waste my life. So then I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to Taiwan to try to pursue my dream in singing. And she really thought I went crazy. Like she like, cause like that was out of the blue for her, right? So that took a long time. There was a lot of back and forth and arguing and stuff. But eventually she was like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you any support. You do it. And if you succeed, then great. If you don't, then you can always come back. And
No
then
support.
Yeah, she was just like, you
What
do.
about relatives here?
Oh man, that was like a different story, man. It's funny because like a lot of times Asian relatives like they love you, but they show it in a way that's not like, oh, there, do your best. It's like, go home, stop wasting time. Like you're not a good singer. I've been told by relatives, they're like, you're ugly and you're fat and you're untalented. Stop wasting your time.
Relatives?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I've been told that before.
but you
Keep
you
it real.
don't you haven't seen often growing up.
No, like those
Just-
are the ones I really cared about and
Oh,
developed.
okay.
So yeah, it was really hurtful to hear. But then like looking back now, I know it was just them like the Asian way of like sometimes it's just like
Yeah, of
they
course.
think they're looking out for you, you know, and like being an artist is like very like not encouraged by many families, right? So I think that was why like they were just like not very encouraging of it. But with all that happening to me and the whole journey of coming back here, like I don't know. I've always felt like it's my calling to work in the
Yeah.
arts.
Yeah.
I've always known that I might not necessarily be like the most famous or the most well known, but to me like doing meaningful work and the whole mission of what I was saying earlier, like trying to get our stories out there, I do feel like I'm working in that direction and everything I do is in that direction. And it's been a very slow climb because coming here, I didn't know anybody. Like I literally, my first friend I met in Taiwan was on the bus. And it was because I couldn't read Chinese at that time. And I didn't know how to read the bus sign. So I was like, can you help me? Like, I don't know. And then that was my first friend. And then moving slowly in the past 13 years of living here, like I'm building connections slowly and finding work slowly. But everything I do it points me in the right direction of what I want. And I just don't want people to be like me when I was growing up and not knowing who they are. I want people to have it a little bit easier than me. And I think isn't that
No, that's
that's worth it. Yeah.
I mean, compared to, because we had Erica on in our first, the last couple episodes, and by contrast to that, right? Erica grew up like in LA, with a big Asian population, big Asian student body in at her school, and she was the lead singer of her show choir. So when we asked about that and her upbringing, I don't think she lacked confidence. Confidence and self-esteem wasn't what she was lacking. It was, she had her own kind of problems and
Yeah, we all have our-
struggles growing up, but
Yeah.
it didn't take her a car accident, surgery, and a school shooting to decide to move back to Taiwan. So I mean, just that inertia you had to
Yeah.
It's a longer
to start.
seems- It's
ignite.
also literally a farther journey. to
Yeah,
take.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but
It's different. I think we all have our own missions in life.
Yeah.
So like I never look at the like people who have it so and so called like better than me. I never
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's that because they got stuff behind closed doors too. I just got to focus on what my mission is, which is just I want to create like more stories. I want to create in whatever medium that is. Like I welcome it, and I love the journey that I've been on so far. Yeah.
yeah, we're glad you're here. We're glad Kike was made possible because of you being here. So
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I moved back when I was 22, 23. and
sounds like you're about to.
wanted to be a singer.
wanna-
Right.
But my parents had a house here, so I could at least stay there. I don't know if they gave me any money, but there was a lot of change in like the jar by the door, like a lot. So that was enough for a biendang for lunch almost every day. And
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, my point is like my grandparents definitely gave me money, right? Hongbaos, like whenever I needed. And I had some odd jobs.
What'd you spend it on?
Beer, Taiwan beer.
The things that are worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about you? Like, what did you do for money and stuff?
It's funny that you mentioned that because when I first got to Taiwan, like I didn't have anywhere in Taipei to stay with. Like, I found a friend that I met through a friend who cut my hair, and then I was like, "Hey, do you have room for one more?" And then he like let me stay with him, and turns out he was a kleptomaniac, and then he stole all of my money that I had like saved up for my dreams. He stole it in
Isn't that
one.
just a thief? That's not a kleptomaniac.
I mean, because I saw, I mean, like, yeah, he just stole stuff. Like, I don't think he meant to do it. I really feel like he wasn't a bad person, but he compulsively would steal stuff. And so, yeah, there was like 3,000 US that he took in one gulp. And so I remember
That's a
very
lot.
specifically, like I was in the middle of doing this competition in Taiwan called Super Idol. And like it was like towards the end of the competition, I made it to top 8, which was really amazing. Like I didn't like everyone who, anyway, that's a different story. But I remember like I was like at a spot in my life where I didn't know if I could keep going, and then I literally had like 100 NT on me, and then I just didn't know what to do. But I didn't want to like tell my mom. I didn't want to like like resort to that. I wanted to see if I could just make it on my own. So I started to just try to find ways to make money and slowly like get a little bit back. And I just told myself like, in the end, this is just part of the journey, and the end goal is always going to be there. So I told myself if I allowed that to affect me in a negative way, then I would not have my mind in the game. I would probably like do worse in the competition. And wouldn't that be like a double loss? So might as well just forget it and just maybe just tell myself that he needed the money more than I did. I mean, I tried to get it back. I wasn't like all like Mother Teresa about it. I did curse him out and was like giving my fucking money back. But
Yeah, that's what I.
obviously, he's not going to be
Most
like,
people.
oh, I took your money. He was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So what do you do? So
Yeah.
there's no use crying over spilt milk. You just have to keep moving on. But I remember, like, I just feel this is why I feel like the journey is worth it, and I feel like everything you do has like a meaning behind it. Because when I was at my most like no money on me like moment, one of my mom's friends came back from the States and she was just visiting. And then, it's very custom for people who are older than you to give you a red envelope as like when you're not in a stable job or if you're not married yet. And I remember very specifically, like under the dinner table when I met up with her, she like tapped me on the knee and I looked down and there was a red envelope. And then she was like, take it. And I was like, no, 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 the polite thing to do. But I was like, please, please, please give me the money. But I took it, and then inside was like 10,000 NT. And I remember like that saved my dreams. And I told her, I went back like 10 years later because I didn't go back to the States for a long time. And she lived in another city. So when I eventually saw her 10 years later, I remember just going to her restaurant and I went in and I told her, I started crying. I was like, you saved my dream. You don't know how important that was to me, because she didn't know how much I needed that. Nobody knew. I didn't tell anybody that someone stole my. It was like shameful, that I trusted people that much, But
So
yeah.
so I mean in that moment, did you think that an act of kindness like that will always trump?
Always.
That's
Absolutely.
what happened.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself too. Like in
Yeah.
the world, no matter how much shitty things are going on,
Yeah.
how many bad there is in the world, history has shown that good has always prevailed, and it's
Yeah.
like very cliched. It's very.
I don't know
innate,
why.
very innate.
I don't know why it became like that. Why like being kind or being like optimistic and positive became like a cliche. It kind of feels like a little bit corny when you're
Yeah.
like optimistic like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, like if people weren't positive or optimistic, like think about our world and like what we're going through right now with like war and like COVID and all that
Yeah,
happened.
no.
Like if people weren't positive or had that optimism, like wouldn't we all be dead by now?
I know.
I think it's good that I think it's necessary that even in the face of all that adversary or pessimism or negative energy, that there are still people who vouch for like positivity, because like without that, where would we be? And yeah, it might seem corny and like whatever, but I'll be corny any day. Like I want to be like optimistic no matter what. Yeah.
And that really came out. So, first of all, thanks for sharing your story. And if people just listen to Kike and imagine the life of that voice actor, they would never picture
They would
anything
never know.
close to that. Never know. It's like, this guy doesn't know struggle. This guy's the happiest
happy all the
MF in the
time.
world. Yeah. He's just voice acting. He has the dream. He's living the dream.
People from like in America, we're more prone to be direct in how we feel. I'm unhappy. I'm gonna tell you I'm unhappy. But it's not really the same here. Like the culture is different.